OTAN, Outreach and Technical Assistance Network.
Hello everyone, my name is Neda Anasseri. I am a coordinator for the Outreach and Technical Assistance Network, OTAN, and I would like to welcome you all and thank you for joining us today for this month's OTAN Tech Talk. Our guest speaker is Kimberly Guppy from the LACC College Noncredit Success Academies. Her topic today is blended learning across platforms. We will be recording this webinar to include on our OTAN YouTube channel as an archive, so there will be no questions during the presentation. We encourage you to take notes where and when you have questions, and after we stop the recording, you can ask Kimberly your questions. I think we're all ready to get started. Take it away, Kimberly.
Thank you, Neda. I'm happy to be here today with you guys to talk a little bit about blended learning and how teachers in adult education can try incorporating it in their classrooms. Let's begin with the term blended learning. Ed Glossary defines blended learning as simply the practice of using both online and in-person learning experiences when teaching students. This means blended learning can include as little or as much as is appropriate for your teaching context. Here's a quick overview of our session. I'll start by sharing my personal teaching context and then introduce you to some of the platforms and educational possibilities available with blended learning. Then, I'll show my current LMS class and share some tips from my experience piloting blended learning for my program. I teach for the Los Angeles City College Noncredit Success Academies, which is located in East Hollywood, adjacent to Koreatown in Los Angeles. We're situated in an incredibly diverse community with students from at least 50 different countries and more than 25 different first languages spoken. Our program serves around 5,000 students every year, with the majority in our ESL program and a growing number accessing our GED high school equivalency program. We offer a varied schedule with classes available on the college campus, as well as offsite with our community partners. In terms of blended learning, our access to the resources at LACC have been incredibly useful. In my personal teaching context, I have been using blended learning since January 2018 with my evening ESL students. On a typical evening, 30 to 35 students will attend. Although due to our open enrollment, I usually have around 70 to 80 students attend throughout a term. This means we need a process for ensuring new students are supported as they learn how to use the system. Personally, I cultivate a collaborative classroom, so experienced students volunteer to assist new students. Since we are an adult ed class, we also have very diverse student backgrounds in both education and with technology, which needs to be addressed when incorporating blended learning. I'd recommend working with your school's technology leaders to find strategies that work best for your context. And you can see in my picture posted here, that's me holding the camera. And on almost every single desk, you see a smartphone. I would say about 98% of the students in our program come to school with a smartphone. One of the easiest ways to include blended learning in your classroom is by utilizing a learning management system, or LMS. I've listed a few popular ones here, and I've highlighted Canvas, as that is the one that community colleges use, and where I've had the majority of my blending learning experiences. It's also the platform I will demonstrate later in this session. Using an LMS can be powerful for students because they have access to learning materials 24/7. Many of the students who come to our classes have incredibly busy lives with other priorities, And by making your class content available online, they can stay involved, even when they have to miss class. These systems are also a safe way to get students started with technology, because the online classroom is contained and controlled by the teacher. In my own experience, students also feel empowered to do more learning on their own. On Canvas, the instructor has access to see how many hours a student has logged and what materials they have accessed. Last semester, I had a student who put in over 25 additional hours of practice at home when he was given the opportunity. In adult education, learning management systems have a variety of uses. Most platforms offer the options here, although they look different depending on the system. If you're new to these platforms, starting with one of these 3 classroom management areas might be a good way to build your confidence with the platform before diving in with content. In my classes, I have used both the attendance and gradebook tools on Canvas. These two are teacher-centric and don't require the students to learn the technology up front. Our system automatically adds registered students to the LMS roster. So I'm able to keep a digital record of both attendance and grades for any student who enrolls in my class without any extra steps. Most platforms also offer some form of communication with students, whether it be a private messaging system or a chat. If students have the app for your platform or have enabled emails, you can communicate important information using your LMS. We're going to look a little more closely at the 3 listed here, content, independent study, quizzes, and assignments. One of the easiest ways of including an LMS into your class is simply by putting your classroom materials online for students to study independently. This might be PowerPoint presentations from class, handouts, videos, and additional resources your students could benefit from. These materials can be organized in a way that makes sense for your class and are available for students to access after hours or if they can't be physically present during a class period. The screenshot here shows some of the additional resources I've posted on my Canvas course this summer. My favorite tool available on learning management systems is quizzes. Unless you're an instructor who likes manually grading quizzes after class, using online quizzes are wonderful because your students know their score automatically. And those scores are also immediately in your gradebook. Once you create a quiz, you can reuse it and easily modify it. Each platform has different quiz settings, but most often you can choose a variety of question types, accessibility options, and whether or not it is a graded or practice quiz. I find it is useful to keep quizzes short in the beginning while students are learning how to input their answers. You may want to try introducing one question type at a time if your students have low digital literacy skills. Then gradually build them up to more options. Depending on your platform, you may also have access to Creative Commons materials. These materials are often OERs, Open Educational Resources, which are materials created by other instructors in the field and shared with the greater educational community. You can copy the content into your class and then modify as needed. I did that with several grammar review quizzes for my summer course because I didn't want to spend time creating content for materials we weren't going to be spending much time on in class. This past spring, I also used an online quiz for our final exam on the last day of class. This allowed students to exit the course knowing their test score, as well as their final grade, as shown in the gradebook. I also didn't have to spend hours hand grading 40 tests, which was nice for me. One final simple integration you can try with an LMS is having an online submission for classroom assignments. I have found this to be incredibly useful for writing assignments in particular, because on our LMS, we have a tool called SpeedGrader, which allows you to mark and comment on the student's writing, as well as assign a grade. If you are doing any project-based learning in the classroom, you can also have students submit their materials to you on your LMS. Additionally, most platforms offer online discussion boards, which can be used in class or as a homework assignment and allow for more collaboration between students. In my class this past week, students wrote about living a healthy life, seen in the screenshot here. They write their response and then are asked to respond to a classmate. Using an LMS for assignment submission can be great for adult ed students because it allows greater flexibility in turning in assignments, as well as eliminates the lost or forgotten assignments, either on the part of the student or the instructor. Additionally, by having students submit online, you can provide feedback to each student, as well as instantly score items, which then appear in your gradebook. Now that we have a few ideas for integrating blended learning in our classrooms, let's take a look at my current summer course. In terms of class time, I usually reserve about 30 to 45 minutes of our 3.5-hour class for practice on the computer. In the Canvas LMS, which is here, we have the ability to organize our homepage in a variety of ways. Here, I've chosen to use modules. Each module here is a week in my summer class, but during the spring semester, I did it monthly. In each module, you can see the various quizzes, assignments, documents, and links available for students. In class, I demonstrate for students how to log into their account and then how to complete each task for the day. Then I walk around the room, assisting students as they work on their tasks. Pairing students by technological ability can be helpful if you assign seating in your class, because you can rely on your students to help one another if you are occupied with a different student. Let's look at 2 tasks I had students working on this week, a writing task and quizzes. For the writing task, I always write instructions and provide an example of what I expect students to complete. They do this work in class, and it provides time for them to work on their English skills, as well as their typing skills. If they are slower typers, they are still able to complete the tasks because they can work on it at home or on a different day. You can see all my students posted, and some of them added pictures to their writing assignment. And here's the quiz. This is a simple true or false quiz about a reading from class. Students have a hard copy of the reading, but if they miss class, they can still access the reading online from home to complete the reading quiz. Here you can see they mark their answers, submit, And here you can see, oh, made a mistake. We also took our weekly grammar quiz on Canvas. This one looks a little different. I have them do one question at a time. For grammar quizzes, I usually allow students to retake it until they get 100% if they choose. This is one benefit to having online quizzes. You don't have to make lots and lots of copies, but you can have the students still repeat activities. All right, there's a lot more to learn, but we don't have too much time today. So we're going to go back to the presentation and learn about a few tips. I recommend to start small in the beginning. As you and your students are getting used to the technology, start with one thing at a time. If your students are picking up on things quickly, try adding more components. For example, I started only with quizzes. Each student came, logged into their account, and tried the quiz. Once everyone understood how the quiz worked, I added another component, a discussion board. Then we moved on from there to uploading documents. It really depends on the students in your classroom and how quickly you want to move through all these different tools available to you. But this leads to the second tip. Please constantly ask your students for feedback when integrating technology. Write down what works best for them and find ways to support them in areas of weakness. After each activity I try with students, I'll say, how was it? Did you like it? Do you want to do something different? Do you want to do it again? And hearing exactly what they need, because the whole point of this is for them to have that extra practice. Third, I highly recommend finding like-minded colleagues who are interested in using more technology in the classroom. It's great to bounce ideas off one another, but you can also share resources and cut your preparation time, particularly if your colleague teaches the same class. I do this all the time with some colleagues at LACC College, thinking up new ideas, things we want to try, sharing resources, particularly since we're all new to blended learning and we want to do whatever we can for our students to learn more. Finally, it's most important to be patient. This can be the hardest part about blended learning, and one of the reasons people are afraid to get started. Technology can fail. Students can take longer to acquire the skills than you anticipated, and some of your best laid plans can fall apart when you try it out in the classroom. As someone who's been piloting different tools for the past year and a half, I want to encourage you to stick with it. Remember that in adult ed, we have so many resources to support us, such as OTAN, and all you need to do is ask. I want to thank you all for joining us today. Have fun exploring blended learning with your students. You won't regret it.
Thank you, Kimberly, for all that great information. That was fantastic. OTAN would also like to thank all of you for coming to this Tech Talk. If you have a tool or some tips that you use in adult education and you would like to share it with the rest of our colleagues in California, we encourage you to submit your idea. We're going to put the link in the chat pod right now so that you can sign up to present an OTAN Tech Talk. We also encourage you to subscribe to the OTAN YouTube channel, where you can find and view Tech Talks as well as view other OTAN videos. OTAN is a leadership project for adult education in California, and if you are at a WIOA-funded site, you can contact OTAN for additional services, including professional development at your site. Visit OTAN at www.otan.us or contact us by phone or email. We hope to see you all at our future Tech Talks. Thank you.